So Phil, smaller voluntary businesses would be better off to become more efficient rather than continuing to offset.
Absolutely. There's absolutely no question that the best path that a company can go on, small or large, but certainly small in the case of the vast majority of your customers, is to become more efficient. And not only become more efficient, but to become continually more efficient every year. And efficiency has a number of advantages. The first thing is that efficient businesses are more profitable. Efficiency is driven primarily by competition. If a company, say in a suburb in Sydney, a printing company, becomes more efficient, what happens is that its competitors in its area also become more efficient in order to keep up with them. It's called the Red Queen effect. Companies continually run to keep up with each other. Because if you don't become more efficient, basically your costs increase. As your costs increase, you just don't become more competitive. But what it does is it reduces your emissions, which is, as I said, the policy aim of the government is to drive industry to invest in technologies that are more efficient. But I should say, it's not just technologies that we should be looking at here. It's also training, in terms of investing in skills. How do you use your equipment better? How do you make sure your equipment's the latest technology? There are 4,500 printers in Australia, and the range of technologies goes down from the very, very basic to the incredibly sophisticated. And it's those very sophisticated ones that are going to be the less polluting ones. So what we need to do is to see our industry move forward in terms of becoming more dynamic, more efficient, and every year setting targets. And so I'd be advocating to BJ Ball's customers and also BJ Ball is to not just look at, say, your core business as your efficiency opportunity. I mean, your core business is paper, obviously. To me, that would be crazy just to look at just making sure you buy the best papers from around the world and say, our warehouse is full of really good papers from around the world. Oh, but mind you, our warehouse is inefficient. You really need to focus on the parts of the business that complement your core business. In the case of a printing firm, for example, it could be that they've got the latest printing technologies, but how do they move paper in and out of their business? Do they get a delivery every day? Can they suffice with a delivery every couple of days? How do they deal with their waste? I mean, how far away is their paper supply to their printing machine? What's their maintenance cycle on their printing machines? Once again, as I said before, in terms of their offices, what's their air conditioning set at in summer and winter? Most companies set it at 25 all year round. Crazy, or somebody gets this feeling, gee, I'm too hot today, turn it down. Or you need to develop standards not only in print but also in the supplementary parts of the business. When you select company cars, make sure you select company cars that are going to be environmentally efficient and less polluting. When you select new equipment, a desktop printer, and even when you select a litho printer or a digital printer, new printing technologies, one of the first ports of call should be, how much electricity does this printing machine consume? How much electricity does this new air conditioning unit consume? Can we structure our sales calls so that we use less fuel but to get the same volume of sales? There's all these things in terms of driving efficiency. Offsets don't play a part in that. And that's really...
Adjugating the course, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. What you're doing with offsets is you're passing the responsibility on to somebody else. And you're passing the obligation on to somebody else. And basically you're saying, we've done as much as we want to do, and now we'll simply just plant a tree.
And pay a
somebody.
high figure.
Yeah, sometimes pay what I think is a ridiculously high figure, but that's how the business of companies, how they want to spend their money. And the ones that don't set targets, the ones that aren't reducing their electricity consumption, the ones that aren't reducing their water consumption, the ones that are not concerned about that are going to be faced with increased costs over time. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised, for example, in Australia, on average, that we see a doubling of electricity costs in the next couple of years. with 3-4 years. That's a big impost. So if you buy a printing machine today that's consuming 40% less electricity than a machine that was manufactured 4 years ago, 40%, that's a 40% reduction in your electricity costs. That's an efficiency mode. That's moving to more efficiency. And then not only that, if you can also work with your suppliers, as I said, in terms of delivery, in terms of the way the material is supplied to you, work with your customers, in the way that you see them, the way that you call on them. Once again, these are efficiency drivers.
These are all ways that we can reduce our costs.
Yeah, make our business more efficient.
That's obviously the trick for all of us in this environment. I mean, margins are at, I suppose, a very skinny level, and it's how we can take more costs out of the bottom end. And as you said, if we were able to do deliveries every second day rather than, or even daily, rather than 2 and 3 times a day, they're things, they're costs that can actually be given back to the market.
It's what economists call the carbon economy. The world has been through different incarnations of for value, if you like. We had gold, silver. Originally it was copper, of course. Back hundreds of years ago, and now we're moving to carbon as part of the cost of doing business effectively. Carbon. The more electricity you consume, the more a energy production site somewhere in Australia is emitting carbon into the atmosphere. The less electricity you consume here, the less electricity they have to produce, and therefore the less coal they have to burn. And that's what it's all about. Basically, reducing electricity. Reducing electricity somewhere else in Australia means burning less coal.
Well, thanks, Phil. I hope, viewers, that you found that to be informative and educational. It is a very hot topic at the moment, and I hope we put that more in perspective for you. Just like to thank you for watching this. We will be doing more of these in the future, so stay tuned for other topics as they come through. Thank you.